football, the red zone is where a team has to make small adjustments to ensure victory. As you approach retirement, you also need to make small adjustments to ensure success. This is the Red Zone Retirement Program with registered investment advisor and enrolled agent John Mears of Mears Money Management.
Well, Coach, we're back at it again here in the month of November. We're going to talk about charitable giving this go around. As the year's winding down, people may have that on their radar. And so, often we talk about financial stuff and it's a math problem, right? But I think a lot of times financial stuff could be a English problem, which I'm sure your teacher wife would appreciate. A little who, what, where, when, why often goes into the retirement conversations. And I think it certainly applies to this one this week. So we're going to talk about how to give with purpose on this episode. So how are you doing? You doing all right?
I'm doing great. We're in the middle of football season for both pro and college football. Baseball season just ended, much to my chagrin. I'm not a Dodger fan out there.
Yes,
so
he just complained before to the podcast started, so I can attest.
And I know many
happy.
of you watching this are Dodger fans. Please ask my forgiveness, but my life is ruined. But it was a great series, though.
It was, yeah.
It was a great series.
I mean, talk about down to the wire. It was absolutely down to the wire. So, the powers that be at the MLB were quite happy about that. Just raining money. So
yes, exactly.
But, speaking of rain and money, let's get into it. Let's talk about this a little bit. You got to start with the why. I just said it was kind of an English problem, right? A little English class problem. So let's start with the why. Of course, I know it's who, what, where, when, why is usually last, but we're going to start with the why first here. Why do you want to give, right? So are you giving just because you want the tax deductions? Are you giving because you're noble? I think start there.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that when you start having the tax tail wag the dog, I think that's we're not thinking correctly. I think if you're intending on giving, and we're talking about charitable giving here in this instance, there has to be a why. There has to be something behind that, and you need to be charitably inclined. A lot of people, I think, want to be charitably inclined, but they don't know how to for whatever reason. And I think that's kind of an interesting take that I've seen my years as an advisor, where not everybody gives, and some people really don't give a lot or at all. And you kind of ask them, not in a,
why aren't you doing it?
Yeah. We're not being critical, just kind of curious. Hey, do they have enough money? They're never going to spend all their money. Is there anything they want to do? And they actually kind of get a little bit confused by that. So I always tell people that that's something that you need to kind of think about, the why. Why might you want to give? And when you're thinking about that, it's something that will also kind of help you with the when and make it more intentional if you can kind of figure out why. And there's a lot of charity. I was just talking to a person just before we're recording this who, when we think of the charities, we kind of think of either a church or one of the big charities, but you could donate to the local high school football team if you want to. There's a lot of charities and people that you might be interacting with already that need your help. Janelle and I, my wife, we do help out with some local charities. So there's some things you can do that are probably already in your circle of people that you could help out with. So I always tell people, if you're looking at intentional giving, maybe narrow it down to maybe one or two, maybe no more than three charities that you really want to. That doesn't mean you can't give to anybody else, but there's three that you might want to focus on. One, probably for a lot of you might have somebody. It may be the church that you've been attending for the last 30 years. It could be something like that. It could be, like I said, it could be the high school football team or the high school volleyball team where you're at. It could be just about anything that you interact with already. Pick one, and that will help you make it more intentional. And then what you want to do is you want to stay engaged with the results there. You want to make sure that there's always going to be volunteer opportunities as well. So money isn't everything. And what we want to do as advisors is just kind of check in on an annual basis to see how that's going and whether you might want to change who you're giving to. So
that's a great point. Like your local dog shelter or whatever, right? So lots of little stuff there. And you mentioned the when. Okay, so you've identified the why. You're all good to go there. So now the when. Well, okay, so just because you are charitable minded and because you do want to be altruistic and all that kind of stuff, that's awesome. But there's no reason that you can't also say, all right, let me also be as effective and efficient for myself as well in that process. So when multiple times throughout the year or, this holiday season as we're coming into it, right?
And I think it's both. I think what you want to do is you want to make it intentional. That's what I always try and do, but there's going to be some impulse giving. There always is. And sometimes that's always the best feeling you get as we do some of the impulse giving. But so I always tell people, you want to leave some space for some spontaneous gifts. That's okay. You want to do that. But you also want to have some intentionality to this. And so you want to decide, am I going to do this annually, quarterly, monthly? Again, some of my clients that kind of give to church, they have that amount. They just like to give to church every single month. We actually set people up with checkbooks if they want to be giving to charity. So if you have a charity that you want to give to on a regular basis, do that. One thing that we can talk about in a minute here is taxes as well, because that also affects how and when you want to be gifting. But you want to decide on a rough amount. It doesn't have to be something that's in a spreadsheet or something that you can't vary off of, but you kind of want to have an idea.
Right.
Like there's one woman I know, she gives about $20,000. That's what she likes to do every year to her church. It's an amount that she's just very comfortable with. And so that's just the amount. But determine an amount that you want to give. That's always helpful. You can always change it. Again, this isn't chiseled into stone, but an amount that you like to give. And then again, we can review this. We we're just finished up our fall reviews right now. That'd be a great time to kind of go through this and say, by the way, I like that amount. I want to increase it. I want to decrease it. I want to do it on a monthly or quarterly. There's all sorts of ways to do that. But again, we want to leave some room for impulse giving as well. We don't want to just have it all maxed out where there's nothing left there.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I was going to ask about the how much, right? So that's the how of the conversation. The OBBA made some changes there. I kind of like saying that, the OBBA. the OBBA. Rule changes. There's a few little things there. So again, nuance can play a factor too.
Yeah, and that's where we kind of do some timing if you want to. So what's happened there, we have what we call an above the line tax deduction now, where if you're married, is a single $1,000, married, that's $2,000, where you can basically, if you don't itemize, which a lot of retirees don't anymore, you can still get a deduction of up to $2,000 on the front of your 1040. Now, if you do itemize, there's a little bit of a hitch here. They actually have created, starting in 2026, a floor of 0.5% of your adjusted gross income. So if you make $100,000 adjusted gross income, you have a floor of $500 you can't deduct anymore, only over that. Kind of like we're used to that with our medical expenses, our deductions there, where there's a 7.5% floor. So there's a floor now for the charitable giving on the itemized deduction Schedule A. So we want to be aware of that. So if this is something where you're not giving away a ton of money, but you're giving away a decent amount of money, you might want to do what we used to do with medical expenses. Okay. Bunch them every other year. So you might have 2026 might be a year where you're giving, or right now before 2025, you can do this before year end. But if you're going to do it to 2026, be that your big year, 2027, not so much, 2028, big year, 2028, and so on and so forth. So we just kind of alternate years so that we're maximizing that deduction. Otherwise, because of that floor, we may be losing some money out of that. And the year that you're not itemizing, that's year you take advantage of the $2,000 above the line deduction. So that's kind of a way to do that if you want to do this intentionally and want to do, and you're charitably inclined, but that's a way to actually maximize that. There's nothing wrong with taking a tax deduction either for this. If you're charitably inclined and you're doing this, I've had people feel guilty about taking a tax deduction. It's like, no, the Congress wants you to take advantage of this. They appreciate what you're doing. And so that wasn't your motivation. Totally get that. But you should still take advantage of the tax laws.
Absolutely.
On that. Take the deduction. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, that's there for a reason. Go ahead and be efficient. And so that will bring us to the kind of the what. We talked a little bit about some of these, but give me some other places to think about. Sometimes people say, well, all right, I mean, I'm just cutting a check, like what else can I do? Well, there's lots of things. There's different options. Again, you could volunteer your actual time too, but what's some other things you could actually do, to give with purpose?
So from a financial standpoint, there's some things we can do. Now, cash is the simplest thing that people do. And that is something that, if you want to give cash, that's fine. It's easy to track. But one thing you can do is always, you can gift what we call highly appreciated assets. Typically, we look at stocks as being that, but it could be property. If you're selling a rental and you don't really need that money and you don't know what you're going to do with it, you can actually donate the rental to the charity. But let's stick with stocks. That's something that's pretty easy for people to understand. So let's just say you have stock that you bought 20 years ago and it's gone up in value, or NVIDIA, you bought it in 2018 or 2019 before it became what it is today. Right. And you have this huge gain inside. You don't need the money, or you want to allocate your resources in other ways. You can actually donate that stock to charity. They can pay, they will, your deduction is only your cost basis, not the value, but you donate your cost basis, you get a tax deduction for that. The charity can sell They get all the money, which is great. They don't have to worry about paying capital gains on that. So it's a great tool if you have embedded gains on something that, and I talked to somebody else who's got a business that they may, donate, believe it or not.
Wow.
So you can also, you can do a donor advised fund. That's a very popular idea.
John,
QCDs.
What is that? So before you go to QCDs, some people hear that donor advised fund. They don't know what that is. Can you maybe just do a quick breakdown on what that is?
So yeah, a donor advised fund is where you can actually donate to a fund, and it's managed by Charles Schwab has a donor advised fund. So you can donate to the donor advised fund, and then from there, then you can designate who is going to get the money out of that donor advised fund. So that's something where you can put money in, you get a tax deduction for that. Now, again, we talked about there's some limitations to tax deductions as well. So let's kind of put that aside right now. Just go with the concept that you're putting money in, you're getting a tax deduction for it, and then you can actually decide where that money is going to get allocated to.
Okay.
So you actually can take money out of a donor advised fund in the future as well, and that there's some tax implications there as well. But the idea here,
once you put it in, you can't take it back out.
You're not taking it back out unless you're going to pay a penalty. So basically, you put money into the donor advised funds, and then you're designating where it's going to go to.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's a simple concept, and again, all the major brokerages offer these to people. So it's not like you go find one; they're out there everywhere, and they're all pushing on them.
Okay.
The other one is a QCD, a qualified charitable distribution. This is where we give checkbooks to some of our retirees. Once you're 70 and a half, you can actually start instead of taking money out of your IRA directly and paying tax on it and then paying your charity, you have that money goes directly from your IRA to the charity. It has to go direct, and we can set that up for you. So it goes straight from your IRA to your church or whatever charity you decide to. And so that does not become taxable income to you. It's a straight contribution to your charity. There's a little bit of nuance here because you can do it at 70 and a half. It's a great way though, when you're at your required minimum distribution age, when you're taking RMDs to actually avoid RMDs. Again, many people that I work with don't need their RMDs anymore. So if you have a $20,000 RMD, you don't need the money. You have other assets that are paying for your lifestyle. Instead of having to take out the RMD, paying tax on something you don't need, and you're going to be charitably inclined anyway, you can send that money straight to church or straight to, again, the charity of your choice. So QCDs are a great strategy. And again, we offer checkbooks to our clients that use QCDs. And like I said, there's some non-cash items. You can also give cars are a classic one, but you can give away houses. You can give away lots of stuff. There are many different things you can do if you're charitably inclined that are not just cash. I guess that's the point.
Yeah. If somebody's giving away houses, man, I mean, that's wild.
It happens.
But it does happen
out there.
Yeah. So kudos to you for that. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. So John, so to me, it sounds like we're the who of the equation here. It could be as simple or as complex as we want it to get, right? So if you're just, grabbing a couple of bucks here and there in cash or writing a check or two, pretty simple. You may not need help, but for some of this other stuff, you certainly want to talk to somebody and get some help.
Yeah. If you're starting to get beyond just cash, I definitely suggest that if you have a tax advisor, you talk to that person, a financial advisor, you want to make sure you talk to that person. One last little technique, and I'm going to be very, very, very limited on what I describe, but this is a charitable remainder trust.
Okay.
We've done that for some clients where you actually can donate highly appreciated assets. And then you actually can take income from the charitable remainder trust. It's very complex. There are limitations as to what your tax deduction may be when you contribute. And there are a lot of limitations on how this thing is even operated. But there is going to be separate tax returns. It's a living, breathing thing, the trust is. But you contribute to the trust. It can sell your asset. It does not have to pay gains, just like any charity. It does not pay gains, capital gains on that, on the sale of the asset. And then in the future, it can start giving you a stream of income. Whatever does not get used up goes to a charity in the future. Okay. So CRTs are charitable remainder trusts, a little complex, but they can be done. And if you are interested in something like that, go ahead and give us a call. We can help you out with that.
So again, talk with a qualified professional who can help you, especially when you're talking about QCDs or donor advised funds or these CRTs that John's just talking about. So, nothing wrong with it. It is the season is upon us. So if you do need some help, hey, give with purpose, but also plan with some wisdom, right? And that way you can certainly, be as efficient and as effective as possible. It's funny how earlier this year, efficient was a bad word, but now all of a sudden it's fine again. So if you need some help, as always, reach out to Coach and reach out to a qualified professional. If it's not John, talk to somebody. But if you'd like to talk to John, we got links in the show descriptions down below so that you can get yourself onto his calendar, bookachatwithjohn.net. That's bookachatwithjohn.net. And we've also got the other links in there as well. So go ahead and click on one of those, get yourself some time on the calendar. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and of course, right here on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up and notification button. And check out some of John's shorts as well while you're on here. So, Coach, thanks for hanging out, buddy.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
I always appreciate it. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Right around Thanksgiving, we'll talk again. So have yourself a great week. We'll see you soon here on Red Zone Retirement Program, Simple Investing, Smart Future with Coach John Mears.
John has a couple of free books, Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California, that reveal exactly how you can experience zero taxes in retirement and overcome the IRS lien on your 401k, IRA, and 403b, which could threaten your future lifestyle. These are complimentary, so all you have to do to pick these up 100% free is just stop by rescuemyretirement.net. That's rescuemyretirement.net. Fill in the basic info and he'll ship those out to you immediately. That's rescuemyretirement.net for a copy of Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California.
Advisory services offered through Mears Money Management, Inc., an RIA registered in the states of California and Texas. California Department of Insurance License number 0685203.